Okay, I see now time is 7:07 and most of our people who I expect to trickle in have trickled in, so I'm going to ring the bell. See my call our meeting to order. My name is Randall. I'm the secretary of the club. Unfortunately, our president is without electricity somewhere in southern Florida right now. So he may not be able to join our meeting. And I would like to start by welcoming all of you who are coming from Tashkent, from Canada, from the United States. And Farhad, where are you, Farhad?
I'm from Afghanistan. Now I'm living in Tashkent.
Okay, so we've got two people in Uzbekistan right now.
Yes, yes.
So welcome everybody. This is the Rotary Club of St. Petersburg International. We are about 16 years old. We are an English-speaking club in St. Petersburg, where the other three clubs in town are Russian-speaking. Our past president, Kai Uwe, is with us. He's joining us from Moscow, where he is working, but like many people, he lives and his family are in St. Petersburg, and he commutes weekly to Moscow for work. Our club treasurer is also here, Andres Porna, and that's it for us. So if you're here for the first time, you will notice that we have a lot of international visitors coming from different nearby time zones. And that is a blessing for us during these times when we meet online, that we're able to welcome people from all around the world who have an interest in Russia or who have an interest in the speakers that we have invited to our club. Now, I would like to share my screen for a second and start with a little slide just to show you the agenda. So we have called our meeting to order. Shortly, we're going to read the four-way test. I am, as I said, the club secretary. So in this presentation, I have a couple of remarks. And then we're going to ask our two guest speakers, Renia Tyminski, who is with us for a second time as a speaker, and Friba Rezayee, who is here for the first time to give a very interesting presentation, which will be followed by a couple of minutes of project updates, and then we'll bring our meeting to a close. So now if I can move to the next slide. If you're a Rotarian, you will have seen this before. It's our club tradition to read it at the beginning or the end of our club meeting. You can see on the right the translation into Russian. We are not going to test any of you today to read that. We'll just stick with the English. And if I may ask everyone to switch on your microphones.
Yeah. Randall, we need the next slide, probably.
You cannot see it?
We see the agenda, but not the four-way test.
Oh, what is that? Something funny is happening here. Okay, let's start again. Let's start again. Technical glitches. Thank you for telling me that. No, oops, no, that's not going to work. Let's try again. Can you see four-way test now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so because we don't want to make it too difficult for ourselves, if you can all switch on your microphones and I will read, and then if you would read after me, we will all together recite the four-way test. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. You could repeat that.
The four-way test
Of the things we think, say, or do.
Is it the truth?
Is
Is
it
it
the
the
truth
truth?
to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Will it build and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
So if you're new, if you haven't been to Rotary before, this is a simple ethical test that was created by one of the past presidents of Rotary International in the United States in the 1930s. He was a banker And he created this to help turn around his bank, and he credited the success of his business to fixing this. Now, I see that there's a little problem with the sharing. I don't know why that's happening. Let's try again here. Let's try again. I might have to go through slide by slide here. I hope you can see this slide. This is just letting you know that we have a district assembly this weekend for region number 1. And why is it region number 1? Because Russia as a district is a pilot district, which is split into 5 geographic regions. The northwest, of which we are part, is region number 1. And the district governor and a regional director will be hosting an assembly in Old Novgorod, which is a very old city in northwestern Russia this weekend. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. The next slide, I want to share this with you. I just received these photos in our district newsletter this week. We had a visit by Natalie Verdian, who is one of our Natalie Verdian. Oh, that's not working. Let's try. Sorry, I'm going to have to do this again. Share screen, share screen, share screen. Natalie Verdian came to Russia from Oregon, leading a project across Russia planting peace poles. So this is a peace pole that was planted in St. Petersburg. Peace poles are written in either 4 or 8 languages with a message that here you can see, "Да будет мир человечеству во всем мире." So may peace prevail across the earth. I think that's the English translation properly. So she planted a peace pole in the grounds of the school that is run by one of the past presidents of the St. Petersburg White Knights Club. And at that event, Natalie came. And it was also an opportunity to meet Sergei. This man, Sergei, traveled across Russia from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok on a hand-propelled tricycle. And he's disabled. He doesn't have legs, and he has published a book in collaboration with the White Knights Club, which is about overcoming barriers. And they are selling the book and distributing it in Russia. It's in the Russian language, and it's quite amazing. So Sergei came to this event, and he gave a presentation about his recent life since he met the Rotary Club of Volgograd, and they are the ones that gave him this bicycle. And when they did that, it completely opened up his horizons, and he was now free. It gave him freedom, and it's absolutely amazing that he traveled across the whole country of Russia, which is just, it's impossible to imagine. So they published a beautiful book about this. Now, today we have 2 guest speakers. Renia, who is founder of a cross-cultural education center in Prince Edward County, Ontario in Canada. She has been speaking to us before, but she wants to come back again. And she's joined today by Friba Rezayee, who is founder and executive director of Women Leaders of Tomorrow. And they're both going to give us a presentation about cross-cultural education and women's leadership with a focus on their work in Afghanistan. And I would like to switch this off. I think that's all I need to say, because I really want to hear from both of our speakers. So Renia, how will this work? Would you like to lead, or Friba will lead?
Yeah, no, I'll introduce, I'll sort of give the context, and then I'll introduce Friba, and then she can do her slide presentation and give more details.
Okay.
That work?
So
I'll
yes,
speak
now,
for about, I'll speak for about 5 minutes.
okay, I may have to be the presenter of the slides, so yeah.
Sounds good.
So over to you, Renia. Thank you very much. A little round of applause. Welcome to our club. Thank you for coming back again.
Thank you, thank you, and thank you, everybody, for welcoming me back to co-present at today's meeting. It's been several months since I've been able to attend these sessions, which are always so informative. And I'll be telling you the reasons why this time. So for those of you who weren't here, earlier this year, I was part of the Pushkins in Quinty team. At that time, I co-presented with your honorary club member, Antonina Durham, and along with historian and biographer Sergei Gavrilov, we spoke about the white Russian diaspora of the early to mid 20th century. That was the historic displacement of approximately 70 years ago that took Irina and Yekaterina Pushkina from St. Petersburg, where some of you are, to Estonia, and then to Picton, Ontario, Canada, where I'm speaking from. It's because of that post-war immigrant story that I was introduced by Antonina to this Rotary Club in the first place. So when Randall Eastman invited me back a month or so ago to present on something related to cross-cultural education, it opened up an opportunity to talk about not only one of the main collaborations I've recently been involved with, but also to introduce the remarkable Friba Rezayee to you. Our collaboration started last May when I decided to offer pro bono language training services to her organization, Women Leaders of Tomorrow. In exchange for applying my lifetime research into language learning to a globally significant women's rights enterprise, I got to explore the most extreme limitations and challenges to online language education that most instructors could possibly imagine. Our cohort of volunteer instructors has been doing one-on-one mentoring support for young Afghan women with big dreams, young women like Kudzia Halili, who's with us. These are the dreams of personal accomplishment in sports and education that were not possible for generations of Afghan women before them. As most of us easily recognize today, English language skills are now necessary on a global level as never before. For decades, basic skills have been referred to with the term survival English in ESL training in Canada. Never has that term been more literally true for so many vulnerable people on the move these days. People experiencing forced migration are greatly disadvantaged without English, much more so than they were in Irina and Yekaterina Pushkin's time or in the time of the women in my lineage who came as immigrants to Canada. What is unique about the language training program that Women Leaders of Tomorrow offers is the added value of international and intergenerational dyads of women engaged in an exchange of communication skills and emotional guidance, all of this online. The program has adapted to the fast-changing events of this year and has become a relationship-building network of support, women to women. As such, it has come to represent many of the core values that educator and athlete Kano Jigoro made central to the sport of judo as well. The values that denote true leadership skills: courage, integrity, respect, modesty, friendship, courtesy, self-control, and honor. Friba Rezayee was the first Afghan woman to compete in the Olympics. She's created and developed an NGO that's continuing to give a collective voice to young Afghan women in spite of the horrific repression that now characterizes their nation. As such, it's helping to keep the light of hope over the future of the young women she serves and the women who she has inspired to contribute to this cause, which resonates for so many of us around the world. So I'll now turn over the presentation to Friba, who'll be able to tell you more about herself and the organization she founded.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor to be among all of you and speak and shine lights about on the issues that currently happening in Afghanistan, in particular for women and children and vulnerable communities. I thank Renia for giving me this opportunity to discuss this very serious topic. Today, I would like to speak about Women Leaders of Tomorrow, how we started, why we started it, and also to give you a little bit of information about myself, that why I was very interested in forming this organization and how our future goal is gonna look like. So whenever you're ready, Rondell, please take us off.
Okay.
Thank you. Women Leaders of Tomorrow is a registered nonprofit society in Vancouver, British Columbia. We founded and formed it in 2018. We have been involved in women empowerment for girls through education and sport for many years. But 2018 was the year that we officially had meetings, we spoke with the government, and we officially formed it. So that's our BC business number as well as CRA tax ID that proves that we are a registered nonprofit society. We are not a charity yet, but we are hoping to be a charity in the next year or so. But right now we are registered in BC as well as with the CRA. Next slide, please. Yeah, I can see. Thank you. Our mission statements that, first of all, we are a group of advocates for Afghan women and girls' education and empowerment. And we are all volunteers, including myself as the executive director of Women Leaders of Tomorrow and as the founder. Women Leaders of Tomorrow empowers women and girls through sports and education. We strongly believe that education is the single most important thing that will improve life for women in Afghanistan. And there has been many cases and case studies since American invasion in 2001 to present. Because after the American invasion, when the Taliban were defeated for the first time, many schools, universities, and colleges opened for Afghan women and for Afghan girls. Afghanistan's entire population, according to the United Nations, is 38 million people. From the 38 million people, only 13% of them had access to education, and only 3% of the 13% were women who had access to education or had a chance and opportunity to go to school and to learn. The number has increased greatly since in the past 2 decades. The number of girls enrolled at schools increased than before. Women had access to education. Women graduated. When they graduated, they had careers, and they joined different careers and different posts. Our objectives are that to find and match young qualified young Afghan women for bursaries and scholarships with primary focus in North American universities. So what we do is that students apply to our programs. We talk to different universities and colleges in finding scholarships or bursaries for them. And we match students' interest, qualification to different scholarships to different universities. On top of our educational program, we have sports components, which the name of the program is GOAL. It stands for Girls of Afghanistan Lead. But I will focus mostly on the education part today. But to give you a brief information about the GOAL project, it was to empower women and girls through sports to give them the leadership skills, education, and qualification, so they become their community leaders. They become professional athletes or even coaches and instructors. Because throughout my life growing up in Afghanistan, I never had a female prominent instructor. There were female teachers and instructors would come and go, but we did not have a stable female judo coach, as we call it, judo sensei. Our coach Farhad Hazrati has always supported us throughout our sports career, education, the last 2 decades. But our goal for the GOAL project was to empower these women so they become their own leaders in their own communities. And we had successful programs, and we had 2 milestones, which I'm very proud to mention. Our first milestone was to be able to send one of our judo athletes to the Grand Slam in Tashkent, Uzbekistan in March this year. She competed and we were very proud of it. And that was a milestone because Afghan women was participating at judo competitions after 6 years. Before this year, Afghan women only competed at 2013 Asian Games. And our second achievement throughout the GOAL project was that we assisted, we prepared, along with help from Afghan Judo Federation and our coach in Afghanistan, we prepared and mentored one of our athletes to compete at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. She did not represent Afghanistan, but we were very proud that because she was from Afghanistan, she was a member of International Olympic Committee's refugee team. Next slide, please. A little bit information about myself. I was born and raised in Afghanistan. As Renia mentioned that I was one of the first Afghan women to compete at the Olympic Games in Athens 2004. This was a time when Afghanistan was just recovering and it was just standing up on its feet after the fall of the Taliban for the first time. And International Olympic Committee, as well as Afghan Olympic Committee, they wanted Afghanistan to be represented by the Afghan athletes at the Olympic Games, and they selected 5 people. We were 5 athletes. There were 3 boys and 2 girls, myself and another girl. I was the only girl in a combat sport, in a martial art. The other girl was in 100 meters sprinting and, athletics. This was in the history of International Olympic Committee as well as Afghan Olympic Committee. I became the first one because my schedule for competition was before the other girl, and my coach made me realize that I became the first one. It was an honor. I was privileged to be able to represent my country, but it came at its own cost, of course. Next slide, please. Growing up in Afghanistan, I was extremely restricted from practicing my rights, being able to play whatever I want to do or be who I am, the person that whom I wanted to be. I really love this picture of myself because I was only 17 years old and we went to a field trip and I climbed one tree because I just wanted to be able to free. And I was born there and I just wanted to be, I was stubborn, I was a dreamer, and I always wanted to be free. Next slide, please. When the American invasion happened, a lot of different organizations also came to Afghanistan to help and support the Afghan citizens, including Afghan women and their children. They helped with the building banks, building institutions, funding the National Army in Afghanistan, and also helping the Afghan president's administration to have leaders, ministers, but they did not have a very good investment in girls' education in Afghanistan. But education is a human right. We advocate and we take this matter very seriously because that is our rights, and that is innate in us. We were born with our natural rights. We emphasize on the value of education because the fundamental human rights is to protect it. It is protected under Article 26 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the UN. And Afghan women had so many progress and impressive achievements for the past 2 decades. Between 2023 to 2020, when democracy was taking roots in Afghanistan, the number of children attending the school increased by more than 8 million. To give an example of the girls' achievement, can you please move the next slide? One of our great achievements in girls' education is Shamsia Alizala. She was the first and the youngest Afghan girl to achieve the highest score conquer exam in Afghanistan, which is the university entrance exam in Afghanistan. And she was the youngest one, and she became a star overnight. She was referred as the Malala of Afghanistan. This is one of the impressive things that girls' education can do in Afghanistan. And she was referred and she was quoted as the national inspiration by the New York Times. She's a star for girls' education, and she's also spokesperson for Women Leaders of Tomorrow, a girls' education. This was in 2020, just before the Taliban take over. She received a full-ride scholarship in Turkey. Now she's pursuing her higher education in Turkey. And in August, the Taliban took over the country. Can you please move to the next slide? August this year, the Taliban invaded and took over the government, and the government collapsed. Our president, Ashraf Ghani, fled to the neighboring country, to Tajikistan. And overnight, all our achievements, all our rights, all our freedoms were halted just in a blink of eye. Millions of Afghan people became homeless, they became refugees, and they want to leave the country because that was the outflex of because they just couldn't believe, or they couldn't live under the Taliban regime. And Shamsia's generation is the generation that was born after 9/11. This generation never lived under the Taliban regime. Their rights were not as restricted as women's rights in 1990s or as it's now, and they cannot accept and tolerate such dark and inhuman regime. During the Taliban invasion and government collapsing in Afghanistan, we had another star, Zalgai Baran. She became the second girl and the second youngest girl to achieve the highest score in Concord university entrance exam in Afghanistan. She became also an overnight sensation, and she became a champion for girls' education. There's a picture of her. The Taliban has given her an award for her achievements. Shamsia and Zalgai Baran are the perfect example that why we need girls' education in Afghanistan and why we emphasize on language training as well as mentorship, because it has been proven that when we work one-on-one with the students overseas, it has greater impact than other methods. The purpose of this program is to provide tools for Afghan women and girls to learn the language so they can speak in their own words and tell their authentic stories in their authentic voices. The goal of the mentorship is to connect each student with a mentor, someone who will walk with the student on their academic, athleticism, personal journey, and make them feel that they have someone in their corners who will listen, provide support, guidance, and champion their academic and life endeavors. As a mentor, your support can be vital in building a foundation for success that will last beyond this student's academic and athletic achievements. Next slide, please. This is an example of our English language and mentorship. This is one of the students from one of the schools in Massachusetts, and what the learner is in Afghanistan, in one of the poorest area in the country and in the capital. This was only English language training program, but she was proud to be a student and to have access to education. I wanted to use this picture in particular because I was so proud of their achievement. Next slide, please. At the end, I would like to mention a couple of facts about girls' education. That did you know, since September 17, the Taliban has barred girls in Afghanistan from attending secondary school. Right now, as many as 5 million girls are affected by this human rights violation. How can you support? How can the Canadian community and international community can support? You can support us by joining the organization, make a donation, or join our campaign / advocacy. We have an ongoing advocacy for the method of that is to have 40 minutes walk, wear something that matches a color from the Afghanistan flag, black, red, or green, and walk for 45 minutes thinking about Afghanistan and supporting Afghan people with the hashtag walk with Afghan women or hashtag stand with Afghanistan. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Friba. Now we'd like to open up questions from the floor. If anybody can
You're welcome.
make an arm motion to show that they'd like to ask a question or just speak. Treasurer Andreas, please speak your question.
Yeah, thank you for the floor and thank you for the very interesting speech, Friba. For us, not having been to this area, not having had in contact with these new regimes and their rules, it is heart-taking and mind-breaking what you were explaining and what achievements you had in the past. The question is, will the new leaders in any way respect what was built up the last 20 years with regard to a wider education? I believe it's not only a restriction on the girls' education, but also on the boys' education. What is your anticipation for the future?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that question because of the internet connection.
Okay, I said that it is was very mind-shaking your presentation. We, as living in the very good situated area, we never had these kind of restrictions in what we are going to do, what we wanted to do. The new regime, I believe in general, will have not so much interest that his population is getting educated. Is it only a restriction towards the women, girls, or will it be also in the future for boys? In the past, it was 13%. So they really, do they have the interest to raise this number of education, of the population educated? Doesn't look like that the questions are reaching Friba. Okay.
I'm wondering if Farhad can answer that question because Farhad was the national judo coach for Afghanistan. Oh, Friba's back. Maybe she can answer. Friba, did you get the question?
Honestly, I didn't get it because of the poor connection. Can you please repeat it?
Will the new regime allow that more people of the Afghanistan people get education? At the moment, it looks like there is only restriction on the boys, but on the girls, sorry. But I have the feeling that in general, this new regime is not interested to have an educated population.
I get the question now. Yes, thank you so much for your question. That was great. We have to look in the Taliban's belief in their interpretation of Sharia law and their ideology. So according their interpretation of the Sharia law, education is not necessary. And the meaning of education is just religious studies. It does not include math or science. They will allow, and they have allowed girls, boys education from K to from kindergarten to 12, and then college, universities. But it's very restricted and can customize accordingly. They don't believe that it's necessary about basic math, about basic science, because they are very restricted Islamic regime. That is their belief, because all the regimes, all the authorities will allow some sort of education, but their education is going to be based on religious studies only.
May I extend my question? As it was so easy
Absolutely.
after 20 years of smelling and tasting and living in a new world with the attention to have more educated people. Once of a sudden, overnight, the Taliban could take over power. Is the Afghanistan people, are these 30 million people ready for the new world, or do they believe that they are safer under the rules which the Taliban represent?
The majority of people don't feel safe under their regime because the majority of people are the young generation. According to the United Nations, Afghanistan's population contains more than 50% of the youth. More than 50% of the Afghan population is under age 30. So this generation and the youth don't want the Taliban regime or any sorts of restricted regime. They don't feel safe. They don't feel liberated. They don't feel that they have the education as their basic human rights. Everybody, as you see, that the Taliban's return caused a mass exodus of refugees. These refugees and these people were the people who were activists, who were human rights defenders, who were athletes, who were writers, who were freedom lovers, and who wanted just have peace and normal life. These people who fled, they were all ordinary people because they wanted to have a just ordinary life. Will it change as the migration of Afghan refugees showed that and everybody wants to leave the country except the very fundamentalists, or some people for other reason would not leave. That is itself as an evidence that they don't feel comfortable living under their regime, and they want to leave the country. However, despite this mass immigration happening, there is a group of people, group of women who were protesting on the streets in Afghanistan, in Kabul. They're risking their lives, confronting the Taliban directly in their face, asking for their rights, trying to stop them from violating their rights and taking their freedom from them. As you mentioned that there's people who smelled and who enjoyed and tasted freedom and having access to education or other access to other resources, they cannot simply accept or tolerate this restriction by the Afghan government. As much as we are devastated in these days because millions of lives are in danger, millions of lives are begging us to help their lives, at the end of the day, we are hopeful. We have hope because we count and we believe in the power of women. We believe in the power of the youth, because right now we have a whole new generation who will fight for their freedom, and they will simply not accept what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your wide and bright answer. Thank you very much.
This is Bonnie. I just had a question. I'm not sure if I missed this. So how, whereabouts is your organization in continuing to support the causes that you are a part of, being that things are so challenging right now in Afghanistan? I'm not sure if I missed that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So we are a committed organization, and we remain committed than before because we have case studies, and this is the reason that why we formed this organization. Of course, we have so many challenges as serious as that all dojos are closed. Girls cannot train at the judo centers. They cannot train at all, but our judo athletes practice, and they train into the last day the Taliban returned. Because judo requires a physical place, a center to practice at, we cannot open it because it's way too sensitive and it's way too dangerous. But we are working on our English language training, and we are also working on our mentorship, because this is something that girls can do and women can do from home while they're trapped. And Women Leaders of Tomorrow is also in process of expanding our English language classes into academic subjects. We are in conversation with different universities, including Simon Fraser University and the University of British Columbia, to expand their online classes to Afghanistan for women and girls who are trapped at home. Since the Taliban regime, all the schools, all the universities are closed, so they will be forced to stay at home. But we and Women Leaders of Tomorrow don't want Afghan women to fall behind their education. It's absolutely possible to provide online education. Our classes are going to be all virtual. We are expanding that. We are working on this project on daily basis. Luckily, we still have internet connection in Afghanistan, and we are giving it 50-50% that the Taliban will cut off the telecom service as well as the ISPs, and 50% not. 50% because they will do it because they know how powerful it is for a civil society to progress and to speak against them, but 50% not, because they're also reliant on the internet connection. So right now we are using the active and the current internet service that we have to provide those online courses and education classes for them. But in the event that they will cut off the internet connection, we will use satellite-based internet, because in Afghanistan since 2010 was reliant on satellite-based internet connection, and we luckily have 2 ISP and telecom experts on our boards. They're volunteers for the organization, and we are working with them how to provide reliable internet connection to them so they can continue their education.
So that's really encouraging to hear that even under the circumstances that your program has been able to continue with using the internet connection and reaching women and girls and other people through homes. And yeah, I mean, you answered my question about what if that gets cut off, because, you know, I could see that happening as well. And so satellite is an option, you know, and I guess that does leave some people behind, unfortunately, and hopefully there can be still a way to, because there are some women and children who will not be able to use the internet or have access to that, I'm imagining, just like in any country. So hopefully there will be a solution for that as well, to not leave those ones behind. But that's encouraging to know that creativity has been at its finest to try and make this happen. So that's really encouraging. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And absolutely, since the world is moving towards digital life, and so is Afghanistan, we're so lucky that we have internet connection. The only silver lining that came out of this chaos and Taliban's return, that a lot of offices are closed, banks are closed, so the girls at home, they have better internet connection and they have time at home to study, and they are very keen. And this program is very successful. We are receiving applications from students as well as the teachers on daily basis, that the students and learners from Afghanistan, they want to learn, and the applications from instructors and teachers on daily basis, that because they want to teach Afghan women. Just in the last 2 days, we received more than 10 applications from universities and universities and instructors. And these are the instructors who have PhDs. They have like 30+ years of teaching as well. Some of them are university professors and college instructors. So we got very lucky, and we're blessed that we get all these offers from these amazing and qualified teachers.
Well done.
Thank you, Friba. Javed has a question.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to share a quick thought. By the way, I just happened to come here through another route. Shout out to my sister Friba, and to Farhad, and to Kutsia, and everybody else for the wonderful job you're doing, Friba. I just wanted to say that the Taliban are in search of state legitimacy, state recognition, and government legitimacy. It's almost as if they are opening their ears to what works and what not. And just recently we heard that they are opening school for higher education for girls. I mean, that's big thing. As much as I don't want to legitimize the Taliban, I want them all gone. Just there's absolutely nothing in terms of like this fundamentalist thinking and all of that. But if there are opportunities to engage women in Afghanistan, why not do? Right now, the world is silent. They are just watching Afghans get buried under this fundamentalist sort of totalitarian strict Sharia law government. And they say, oh, the United States tried for 20 years. They couldn't help themselves. So they're just watching. But the thing is, like, even putting pressure through whatever means you can to speak for women's rights and human rights and civil society in Afghanistan, I think it matters. And I think that, again, as much as I don't want to legitimize, do anything good under that government, but we're talking about people living there, especially women who are bound at home. And so through organizations like Women Leaders of Tomorrow and others, the more we engage and talk about freedom and say that the word is not silent, that we're watching you, you won the war against the US, good for you, but we're not letting you go. We're not letting you just be the way you want to run the government. There are civil society at risk, women's and minority rights. So the good thing is, again, I'm sorry, I repeat this, the good thing is that because the Taliban are looking for legitimacy and state recognition, their ears are open and we should not be silent. Thank you.
Thank you, Javed. And adding on that, I wanted to mention that as much as the Taliban are married to their ideologies, they are very sensitive to world's opinion about them by, as he mentioned, that putting pressure and advocating, keep the advocacy alive, keep our voices alive. It works because they care about their reputation as well during these critical times. So because the international community, as well as the civil societies and local organizations in Afghanistan, they put a lot of pressure and they advocated. Now the Taliban recently announced that they are allowing girls' secondary education, and they will reopen this the school. So yes, keep the advocacy on. It will change, and we will change them.
Thank you, Friba. I'd like to ask a question if I can. In Afghanistan, what part of the country have you been able to implement your project, your programs?
We primarily worked in the capital, Kabul, because that's where the girls' team was. We were successful, and we were supporting two different dojos in Afghanistan, both of them run by our coach Farhat Hazrati, who is present here, and he supported our team. But we were expanding our programs into different provinces as well, especially the provinces that are closer to the capital, and it's easier to travel and it's safer to travel. And we have a dojo there. That dojo was supported by the National Olympic Committee, and we recently raised funds for them, and we transferred the funds for them to celebrate the International Day of Judo, which is on October 28th. And we wanted to support them. So we are expanding our program into different provinces, Baghlan as well as Takhar. We recently received the application for the English language tutoring program from Takhar, one of the provinces, and our dojo is alive in Baghlan. The reason that we want to advocate and we want to raise funds to support the dojos is that because we want to save the legacy and the value of sports and sports of judo in Afghanistan, because with the mass immigration of the athletes, we are concerned that the value and the legacy of sport will die with them. And if a society doesn't have access to education or sports, that is a dead society. So we are saving the legacy of that, and we will keep continue our work outside the capital.
Thank you. Let me ask another question. I'm just curious about your personal journey, how you became involved in judo, and why judo may have a special advantage or a special role in Afghanistan compared to other sports, particularly for girls.
Sure. When I participated in 2004 Olympic Games, because that was history, and then it opened a pathway for girls and women's sports in Afghanistan. Women participated and played many different sports and social sports as well, such as soccer, basketball, baseball, you name it. Afghan women did and played in Afghanistan. But martial arts became popular, particularly because martial arts have covered uniform from head to toe, and it's indoor sport, so women can practice in indoor dojos and judo centers. I was interested in combat sport because when I was a kid, when we were in our refugee home in Peshawar, Pakistan, in late 90s, I watched Layla Ali's match, and I just fell in love with her boxing and how powerful she was, and I wanted to practice and become exactly like her. She was my icon as well as my opponent in my head. And when my family returned to Afghanistan after the American invasion in 2001, I wanted to continue boxing because I just wanted to beat Layla Ali. And because it was not possible for me to practice boxing, and we did not have any other girls at that time playing boxing sports, so I couldn't. And then I found this dojo, and I met my coach, and I practiced judo, because as soon as I walked onto the judo mats, I fell in love with the sport. I realized that it's the best way for me to practice my freedom, to empower myself, to find confidence. And in judo, we have the philosophy. In Japanese, they say tai sabaki, which means the control of your body, because you use your head as well as your body at the same time. So it's very empowering. And I believed, and throughout my life, I learned that once you have control of your body, you can have control of your mind, and then you can lead your life. Also, combat sport, because I wanted to prove to the Afghan society that girls and women are as powerful, as strong as boys and men. And it always bothered me when I didn't have equality, same as my male cousins or any other boys in the community. Um, when I was a younger, so I wanted to play a very serious combat sport to prove that girls can too.
When you were training, were you training separately boys from girls, or you were training together with combat fighting with the boys?
When I started playing judo in Afghanistan, we were only 3 girls in the entire country. We were the only 3 teenage girls. There were other girls, but they aged from 7 to 12 or 10. We had only girls session and mixed sessions, and it was safe. It was safe for us to do, because our coach made it very safe for both genders to practice at the same time. And I wanted to train with the boys because I wanted to normalize girls' participation in sport, and also wanted to bring visibility to women's rights and women's sport. So it was mixed. Sometimes only girl session, sometimes it was mixed.
You mentioned that you speak some Hindi, is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit. I understand more than I can speak now.
I watched an amazing movie, this is a total aside, but about Mary Kom in India. If you haven't seen that film, you
Oh,
should
okay.
watch it, because you remind me of Mary Kom. She wanted to fight with the boys, and she did it, and she changed a whole bunch of cultural norms within her family and the community about women competing in boxing in India.
Yes,
Amazing.
I've seen that movie. I love it too, because yeah, it's for the reason you just mentioned. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Do we have other questions from the floor, please? Kai, now you're ready. You have to unmute.
Yes, thank you very much. It's less a question, but like a small personal thing. So in the 90s in East Germany, so I had an Afghan trainer for the Taekwondo, and they kind of remind me of the Master Mehdi, and I was really impressed from him. He was such a positive guy. Like seeing also background, it was also difficult times for Afghanistan, and so he brought a lot of good energy to my youth. So I was like a teenager, and you have also complexes and so on, and then you do the Taekwondo, and so like, very bright memories about this time, and so just wanted to share this. And then one other thought, like it's easy like to look at Afghanistan, the finger point at everything bad and not understandable for us. But if you look into our own history, like especially as Germans, we do not need to look that far back in history. But if you look a bit far, like more than 100 years ago, then in Germany, like witches were burned and so on. And it took us a long way to get to this point where we are in most of the areas in the world. And so we, of course, should support these people who are still on the way. And so, but how to say it on a KPI level and not just say that we are better. So my
Thank
two
you
cents.
so much, Kai. That was very sweet, and I have to mention that since you're from Germany, you showed me your passport. Um, in the history of Afghanistan and how judo became available in Afghanistan, one of our a person from Germany came to train the police, and he was a judoka in I want to say late 90s or early 90s. And he was from Germany, so Germans brought judo to Afghanistan, and trained the police because they wanted to train the police because there's very similar techniques when they arrest a suspect. And they introduced judo, and our coaches. I had 2 coaches in Afghanistan. One of my coach, he trained with him, and he also trained with the police earlier. And judo only became available for women in Afghanistan in 2002, when a Norwegian diplomat, who was also himself an Olympian from 90s, he introduced judo to women, and he was a founder of a nonprofit organization named Judo for Fred, which means Judo for Peace. And he encouraged me and encouraged other girls to join to join sports. So yes, Germany has been a great ally and a great friend to Afghanistan for so many different projects, as well as supporting women. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Natalia or Joan, surely you must have a question. You have to fight for the mic now, whoever's first.
No, I found the whole thing fascinating. I've been following in the news, et cetera, and I totally agree. Sports is a confidence builder, and you know everything you've talked about, Friba, is really important. I'm in education, and I mean you've also given me some understandings for the Afghan refugees that have come into Toronto, and we're getting a number all the time. And I just found it so fascinating. And the German connection was kind of cool, and the Norwegian, because I'm from Scandinavia. But, you know, all of those things, those are the bits we never get to hear. So it's fascinating to pick up those other pieces that help to put the picture together and give us a more complete understanding, or a better understanding. It's not complete. It's definitely better. So thank you very much. That was awesome.
You're welcome. Kai, danke schön.
Natalia, do you have anything to ask or say?
I wish all success to this amazing program, and it helps to build character, it helps to build individuals, and everything the best in future for you guys.
Friba, I have one more question that comes to mind. When you're teaching, is it teaching all one-on-one, or are there group sessions, group classes that are being taught?
This mentorship and tutoring is one-on-one session, because we want to focus on helping one girl at a time, and different tutors are working with one girl directly, because it has been proven that it's more impactful than classrooms. Also because of the poor and limited internet connection in Afghanistan. And yeah, it's one-on-one, and we care about quality. So yeah, it's one-on-one.
We had one of our guests tonight who had to leave early, is a friend of Renia. Her name is Sandra. And Sandra mentioned in the chat that she's a Toastmaster, as a senior Toastmaster. I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters, but it's I am familiar because I'm involved here too. And it's there are programs designed for high school students. There's a set of 8, I think it's 8 different modules, which it might be interesting if you were to reach out to one of the many clubs that are in Vancouver or Vancouver Island, and see if any club would like to work with you to implement, to deliver one of these set of programs, because it's about public speaking, it's about organizing your thoughts, it's about confidence building. And it would, I understand that you're delivering one-on-one treatment, but you could actually get 8 to 10 girls together, perhaps. They could be in different places, and create a virtual club, like now around the world, a lot of us have already done. So we used to meet physically only, some clubs online, but now everyone has become exposed to meeting as a club online. And we found that we had some challenges, but still we were able to, it was able to work. So the format that Toastmasters have, which is giving a prepared speech, getting some feedback, which helps you improve and gives you and boosts your confidence. Maybe there's something that could be done. But I know that if you're in Vancouver, it wouldn't be hard for you to bump into a Toastmasters club, and maybe reach out to Sandra because she was on the line earlier, and see if they can make an introduction. But I think clubs would benefit from by giving that, because they get a chance to go outside of their own club environment to do something for the community. So it's a win-win. And I will, after the meeting, I'll send you an email with some details that I have about what the program is called. But there's one specifically designed for high school students.
Oh, that's perfect. I will definitely look into that. I'm also going to share our main email address that whoever is interested can contact us at any time. It's just info@womenleaders.ca. And yeah, I'll definitely look into those clubs because they are great resources and mentorship, as well as the leaders that they will lead the leaders of tomorrow. And I have also shared a link to our donation box. We are currently raising funds for to cover the cost of the internet connection for the girls in Afghanistan, because a lot of these families are coming from a poorer family background, as well as other challenges that's happening right now. So we are aiming to provide $20 to $25 a month a stipend for each girl to buy internet data on their phones. So there are two ways that you can help us with the donation. One way is that you can make a donation one time, or you can donate smaller amounts but monthly reoccurrence. So it could be like, if it's $25 a month, it will cover the cost of the internet connection for one girl for 1 month, and that will secure internet connection for her for several months. And I have shared the link below if you're interested.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask one more question. So how did you end up in Vancouver?
Sure.
Because that's the last place I lived when I was in Canada.
Oh, you did? It's a very nice place. I love it. I love West Coast. I love East Coast too, but I love West Coast because I feel that my body was created for this atmosphere. I love the coldness. I love the wetness here. I just love it because I've heard of it, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful city, and I could not live anywhere else in the world.
Is your brother in the same city, or is he somewhere else?
No, he's in Massachusetts, and he's also a lecturer at the Tufts University.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like everybody to give a huge round of applause for Friba and for Renia, who brought Friba
Thank
today.
you. Thanks for having me.
It was
Can
very
I ask one
illuminating.
more question?
Yes, of course you can.
Friba, I think I might be interested in you even talking to my Rotary Club here in Nanaimo. And so can I reach out to you through that info email box?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess it's coming to 2023. We're a couple of minutes early. We can close early. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and joining us from wherever you are. And thank you so much for our first two guests.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's a Rotary four-way test.
Now many years ago, in 1932, his company was headed down, he knew not what to do. Then Herbert Taylor started on a quest to keep his team from certain doom. He wrote the four-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. Adopted some years later by Rotarians worldwide, some simple rules for dealing with the people by your side. A guide for life's decisions, no doubt one of the best. Just 24 quite simple words. The four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. In the class or on the playground with your friends at school, you'll find that hurtful words and actions really aren't too cool. So as you make your choices of what to do or say, Remember that old four-way test and you will be okay. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary four-way test. And will it be beneficial to all concerned? That's the Rotary